be my fashion trend prediction video for 2024 part 2. Like I said in my first video, I really wanted to give a holistic overview of all of the potential fashion trends that we're going to see, not only at the start of the year in 2024, but really the trends that are going to last the whole year. So not the trends, not the pieces that are just going to be hyped up and then go quite quickly, but really the whole vibe that we're going to see, the whole overarching aesthetics that are going to really last throughout the whole year. I feel like the trends that are coming are really just going to level up our style. So many people can wear these trends in so many different ways. They're really not just set for one type of person, one type of vibe. So this is going to be my 2024 fashion trend predictions part 2. So the first overarching trend that we're going to see in 2024, it sounds like we've heard this time and time again, but it's the trend of the 90s and 2000s. But it's not the trends of the 90s and 2000s like we've seen it before. So obviously we all know that the 90s, the 2000s, Y2K has been a huge fashion trend, a huge fashion inspiration for literally like the past 7 years. However, apparently in 2024, we're going to see the same references being taken from the 90s and 2000s, but in a more minimalist and modern way. So in terms of the influence this will have on the actual trending fashion pieces, I think it could be these high neck, halter neck tank tops with like matching capri pants or matching cigarette pants. Also just classic minimal mini dresses, pairing these with some platform shoes, maybe a Tammy girl platform heel or some chunky sandals as well. I do also think low rise midi skirts will be a huge thing in summer of 2024 because again this really does fit into this 90s minimalist aesthetic. Like I said, I really don't think it's going to be these exaggerated baggy cargo pants or graphic baby tees. It's going to be a way more subtle and wearable interpretation of this trend. So in terms of other macro influences that are really going to propel this trend even more, apparently there is a Spice Girls documentary that's also going to be released in 2024. Obviously the Spice Girls are again huge style icons from the 90s and early 2000s. So there is no doubt that this is definitely going to have an impact on the fashion trends that we see in 2024. Apparently there is also a new Mean Girls movie that's being released in January. This is obviously exciting for a few reasons, but again it is going to have a huge impact on fashion trends that we see. I just hope it's not the same impact that the Barbie movie had, because we all know that Barbiecore was definitely one of these trends that came and left in literally a matter of weeks. And I do think if a lot of people are going to the cinema to watch a new Mean Girls film, there is the potential that brands, fast fashion brands, could release a lot of novelty merch, novelty fashion products that represent this Mean Girls film. But I do actually think that there are a lot of cool references that can be taken from the outfits and costumes that were worn in Mean Girls. My mind's going to that outfit that Lindsay Lohan was wearing, the sort of pastel outfit, pastel blue, pastel pink with that little mini skirt. I feel like this is really cool inspiration or a reference for your 2024 wardrobe. And like I said, in 2024, I personally believe that it will be more about taking less literal references and copying outfits from these time periods one for one, but more just taking elements from these inspirations, from these references, and putting a 2024 twist on it. Something else I did want to mention in terms of specific pieces that we'll see trend in 2024, I am seeing these classic New York Yankee hats being spoken about, also pairing them with some aviator glasses. Again, I think with the inspiration from documentaries of celebrities from the 90s and early 2000s, this is obviously a classic sort of celebrity look from that time. Also something else that I haven't seen spoken about specifically, but it's where my mind sort of goes to when I think of the influence from these 90s documentaries. I do think that vintage Adidas tracksuits could have a whole moment in 2024, or just vintage sportswear tracksuits as a whole. There's just so many photographs from iconic, influential people from the 90s and 2000s wearing really cool sportswear tracksuits, sportswear attire as their casual wear. As a side note that sort of leads on from this as well, obviously in 2024 we're going to do a lot more traveling, and I do think because of this, airport outfits, travel wear outfits will again have a whole moment as well, and potentially people could really adopt this vintage matching tracksuit aesthetic for their airport outfit. But really that is sort of obvious anyway, but I did want to give a special mention to airport outfits, activewear. I think it'll be interesting to see if this has an impact in the 2024 fashion trends as well. But for me, the thing that I'm most excited about for this this trend, and the reason that I really wanted to spotlight it is because of the color palettes that is associated with 90s minimalism. So this is being said to be any sort of cooler tone, cooler color, thinking of things like baby blue, gray, also this sort of mushroom purple color I think fits into this as well. Also silver, thinking about this Y2K Futurism as well. I saw these images from the Nokia ad campaigns at the time, and I feel like this sums up perfectly what I mean by this color palette and also what I mean by this trend as well. I also believe this aesthetic's being described as a soft girl aesthetic, so thinking about wearing more silver makeup, but overall just incorporating more cooler tones, icy retro tones into your aesthetic. And to be honest, I am just so obsessed with the whole look that this aesthetic gives. I think the perfect example to look at is Paloma Wool. I think we're all obsessed with Paloma Wool, and it's just because they get it so right. And really recently they've been incorporating these cooler tones, blues, greys. It just really looks like they are taking reference from this 90s editorial minimalism. Another brand that I saw that sort of reminds me of this aesthetic as well is the footwear brand Dirt. It was actually when I saw these images on Instagram that first drew me to this small brand Dirt, and I really feel like we're just going to see more and more of this aesthetic in 2024, and I am not mad about it. I think so many people could look so good in this type of clothing, this type of color palette. It is also really wearable as well, and that's why I think we're going to see so many brands adopt this same look and feel in 2024. I also came across this small brand. I'll just put their Instagram on screen because I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. And what's so funny about this small brand, which I feel just sums up this whole trend perfectly, it says they're redefining the notion of modern nostalgia. So I think it's really funny that this small brand has that in their bio. It just sums up what I believe this trend will be perfectly. Some other reference images that I wanted to show that really highlight how I'm interpreting this trend is this silver bag that I saw, and also these silver shoes with the bows. For me, this really sums up this combination of 90s minimalism, but with elements of this Y2K retro futurism as well, and I'm just so obsessed with this aesthetic. So the final thing that I really wanted to highlight in terms of huge fashion trends for 2024 is just the overall topic of functional clothing. We all know that Gorpcore has been just such a huge thing for the past few years in fashion. It's apparently not going to take on this exaggerated outdoor wear aesthetic that we saw in the past, but instead it's going to take on a lot more cooler tones, way more fitted silhouettes, just overall a way more refined version of Gorpcore. And basically it's Gen Z that really drove the Gorpcore trend and all this exaggerated outdoor aesthetic that we've seen over the past couple of years. And this is the generation Gen Z who is really used to this hybrid way of working, hybrid way of living, and because of this they really want functional apparel, but that still looks smart and mature and refined. And I think it's really interesting to see how Gorpcore has matured with the generation that was driving it in the first place, and that's why all the trend forecasting reports are saying that we're going to see this more mature, more refined and smarter version of Gorpcore in 2024. I think a really good reference is the Givenchy Spring 24 collection, specifically this look that obviously had the tie, the workwear, but with this technical jacket on top. I think this sums up again this modern way of dressing that we really haven't seen in full force in 2023, really depicting how people want to dress, how the modern person wants and needs to dress. I did also find some small and up and coming brands that I think also fit into this trend as well. I'll just put their Instagram on screen, but really I do think all of them are adopting this way more wearable, way more refined version of functional clothing and Gorpcore. I also came across this small designer, Freya Mckee. She basically creates this transformable apparel, adaptive apparel. Personally, I'm really obsessed with the whole idea, the whole concept of transformable apparel, obviously for the sustainable benefit that you can wear a piece in many different ways, but I do also think it's a really cool concept. And I think if we're going down this more functional clothing route, we're definitely going to see more adaptive, transformable apparel in 2024 as well. I also wanted to reference these Prada boots for this trend as well. So these were from Prada's 99 ready to wear collection. I just think these are just such a good fashion reference for next year, because we are going to see more of this functional, interesting apparel and footwear crop up. So I really wanted to highlight those as well. So that was really it in terms of overarching aesthetics. In terms of the final sort of random things that I wanted to mention, I do think we're going to see more structural blazers in 2024. So this could be things like shoulder pads and also just creating more interesting shapes with blazers and workwear as well. Also, I do think that wax jackets, barber coats are going to continue to be a huge thing. I've already mentioned more airport outfits, sportswear obviously, and then the absolute final thing that I wanted to mention I haven't really mentioned the influence of the 2010s, things like indie sleeves that I know is starting to crop up as a trend prediction. So I don't personally think we're going to go back to wearing what we wore in the 2010s. If you disagree with me, definitely let me know down below. I'd be interested to hear. However, there is one thing from the 2010s aesthetic that I did want to mention, and this is creeper shoes. I basically saw this one reference image and it suddenly took me back to creeper shoes, and it just got me thinking maybe if people are into this 2010s aesthetic, then that would mean that creeper shoes would definitely make a comeback. So that's definitely something that I wanted to mention. Who knows if creeper shoes will really be a thing in 2024, but it will be interesting to see. But that really was everything I wanted to mention in terms of all of my fashion trend predictions for next year, for 2024. Definitely let me know what you think of these aesthetics, these trends as well. And until the next one, I hope you have an amazing day. Bye!